Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using island cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, we tasted their food and everything, we definitely use them again because their service and food is just awesome.
I'll ride with the horses, I'll swim through the sea, I'll climb to the mountain tops, won't you come follow me? I'll take time to notice all that I see, and after I've come so far, you know where I'll be. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. But life is a vision, that's how it should be. The world is a canvas, and the choices are free. At the end of the journey, where all is complete, they'll all wonder where I've gone, but you know where I'll be. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. Our dreams last forever, for all that we know. The roads come together, and that's where we'll go.
The pompous
and elite wish we go away.
because we are
real and direct.
no interest owns us.
And we have no interest but
The truth.
Together we are exposing
corruption.
Together we will reform criminal justice.
Together,
we are fighting violence
Against women and children.
We here at
Candid
will shine the light.
on every corner of darkness.
Together we are giving a voice
to the voiceless.
and forgotten.
Stay lit.
Together.
Together,
Together.
together,
Together, we are giving a voice to the voiceless and forgotten.
We are Candid News Group.
to the summer and the rainy season. I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm Johnny Rosario.
Welcome to our studios here in Hagåtña, Guam, on the 7th floor of the DNA building, our new crib, where we have actually 2 sets. You can't see the other one; it's behind you. But this is all pretty cool.
And we do have a couch for us that love to take naps too.
I love to take naps. That is a thing. So when was it Chris Barnett or someone? They were like they were getting upset, all bent out of shape because Congressman Mike Nicholas likes to take 3 p.m. naps. I'd be like, you know what that is? You know what a person who takes a 3 p.m. nap is? A guy who's been working all day and through the night.
They were probably you were probably up at 4 a.m.
Like, if you don't take a 3 p.m. nap at work, and I don't care if it's on your chair like this, you know, with the tola coming down.
Or your couch in your little office.
All that means is that you are actually not working from the morning till that 3 p.m. Because I'll tell you, throughout my career, 3 p.m. is my what do you call it? My siesta. It's my afternoon siesta. And it normally is like 3 p.m. and it's because I'm just so freaking tired from the day, and also probably like, you know, eating a big lunch or something.
That gets me.
Yeah.
Our lunches get me.
Yeah, and so and so when they were like, oh, he takes a nap at his office chair at 3 p.m. I'm like, you guys don't even go to work. If you wake up like past 7 a.m. and you go to work after you clock out at 4:59 or 5 p.m., I mean, you go to home and you clock out at 4:59, 5 p.m., and you're able to be in bed by 10 p.m., hey, good for you, but you do not know the struggle of a person who is busting their butt and is grinding away. Anyway, we just kind of took that conversation a little bit too far.
We did. Sorry. Dispense that.
I think we're going to start tonight with crime, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Magistrates complaints came in today. Michael Garrettson, who is 39 years old, he is being charged with family violence and child abuse. Mr. Garrettson, on June 30, 2020, there was a disturbance in Jotnya. Once on the scene, an officer interviewed the victim. She had been assaulted by her husband, Michael Garrettson. The victim told police that Michael had headbutted her twice, grabbed her face, and struck her face with his palm around the chin area. Another victim that was there who witnessed what happened to.
Who's the prosecutor?
The prosecutor is Alyssa Deerhart. So Mr. Garrettson is charged with family violence as a misdemeanor, should be a felony, and child abuse. And then we go on to the next bad one.
Is this bad to worse?
Yeah, we're going from bad to worse. Then we have Chris Teo. He is born in 1993, which makes him 26 this year.
Oh, his
He's
birthday's
born in
later?
December. Yeah. He is being charged with family violence, strangulation, interfering with the reporting of family violence, again, as a misdemeanor, and an unlawful restraint. Mr. Teo, I hope I'm saying that right. He did a whole slew of things. It's a lot.
It's pronounced T-O.
Oh. Mr. T.O.
Only our kind will understand and laugh at that one.
Yeah. So this happened on March 15. The prosecutor on this is Renata Siniclis. There was a complaint on March 15, 2020. Not sure why he only got picked up today or on June 30.
Maybe he was evading the police or something for a whole, like, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. These people, especially family violence, you can't have them out there because it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
Anyways, Mr. T.O. had an argument and became physical. The victim and the defendant were hanging out and drinking beer at the T-Zone softball field when the victim wanted to leave. He got angry, upset, and chased them. The victim got into the car. He chased them down.
Jeez.
Yeah. He grabbed the keys from the victim's hand. She begged him to stop. And he said, "Go ahead and call the police. They can't do shiz. I'll just get out in a few days."
Was it her car?
Yes.
It was her car, and so he was trying to take the keys to take her car, and this is someone known to him.
Yes, the ex-girlfriend.
How old is this kid?
He's born in 1993.
Who
So he's
in the
26
hell
years
do
old.
you think you are trying to take someone else's car? I
Yeah.
mean, I know we should be upset about the violence part of it.
Yeah.
But he's demanding
Yes,
someone's keys
because she wants to leave.
because she wants to leave. Of this woman who goes to work, pays for her own car,
Correct.
and he thinks that he somehow is entitled to that.
Yes.
He needs to be shot by a rubber bullet in the middle of New York City because he sounds like one of those protesters, not protesters, I'm sorry, one of those looters, or one of those idiots that have nothing better that blame all of life's problems on everything else.
parents.
And his
So
parents.
he strangled the victim. He grabbed her by her neck. He damaged the car. So he did a lot of things. So
The judge should make him pay.
thank
for
God
that.
Mr. T.O. is in jail.
Hey, do you think anyone's going to give him a TO after
Oh,
this?
they're gonna give it in him. And this is the next one is the most disgusting one out of every one of them.
Is it disgusting because of the circumstances or because of the age?
It's disgusting because of it all.
Okay.
He's Mateo Lujan, who's born in 1936, is 84 years old, and he is charged with second-degree criminal sexual conduct. So when I
That's a pretty bad
yes,
degree,
when I
right?
opened
Yeah.
this up today, I saw the age and I said, I wonder if this is his first victim, because I can almost guarantee you it's not. He's 84 years old. On June 6th, police responded to a criminal sexual conduct complaint. Well, I'm going to read the whole thing, okay? Where the witnesses were at Dedido Precinct Command. Police interviewed a witness that told police the victim was touched by a household or family member identified as Luis Mateo Lujan. Police noted that defendant is about 84 years old. The witness informed police that she noticed the victim was acting uncomfortable around him. The witness also told police that the defendant called the family together so that he could apologize for what he did to the victim.
So he admits it?
Yes,
Okay.
in front of they're telling the police this.
Okay.
Police interviewed the victim, who explained that on June 3rd, he was massaging defendant's legs when a defendant told him to massage higher up his legs before defendant took the victim's hand and had him massage his private part. The victim said penis when police asked what private part. The victim told police that the defendant also touched the victim's penis. When asked what happened after, the victim stated the defendant told him to put his finger into defendant's buttocks. The
Ugh.
victim explained that defendant then rolled over onto his stomach, and the victim put his left pointer finger into defendant's butt. Based on the foregoing, there is probable cause to charge Luis Mateo Lujan with 2 counts.
Ugh.
So disgusting.
I haven't read
Very
that.
gross.
This is the first time I'm hearing this magistrate's report. I saw the 1936 thing, the year he was born, and I saw the second degree CSC thing, but I was kind of busy. I didn't read it. Ugh.
Yeah. So very disgusting. Once again, his name is Luis Lujan, born 1936.
My goodness. But like, what do you like? I mean, I guess is he like? I don't know. This magistrate's report doesn't say whether he's able-bodied or whatever.
He's able-bodied. You know, if your kids, if there's older adults, and you walk into your home and you see them massaging, knock it off. You don't ask kids that's not your own kids to massage you.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. Was the victim a girl or a boy?
A boy,
Does it say how young the boy was?
14 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Jeez.
disgusting.
Oh, if this sushi wasn't so good, I would have lost my freaking appetite. Man, you know what they didn't have at the store at 76 when we were getting this is the purple Doritos. Have you ever eaten the purple
Oh, yeah,
Doritos
I
with
love
this?
those. Yeah.
It's have you tried it with this though?
No,
with
no,
the,
not
oh,
together.
it's like the perfect. It's not. I don't care for the purple Doritos by itself though.
And where can you find those purple Doritos?
At Circle K, Chelo,
Oh,
at 76.9.
Sick.
Actually, I haven't seen it. I was looking for it at Kmart and I couldn't find it there. The purple Doritos. Because I had an extra thing of Anyway, long story. Who cares? There's also police are also looking for a man who family members say is not the kind of dangerous that has a gun on him, but he's kind of lost in the sauce right now.
Okay.
And so the
He needs
family is
help.
trying to find him to bring him in to have himself turned in. They reached out to an attorney, but his name is Justin John, or is it Justin John? Yeah, Justin John Portisac. I believe he's 27 years old. He is wanted by police on relative to a stalking complaint. And so if you know where Justin John Portisac is, call police if you are in a position to help Justin John Portisac and convince him that he should turn himself in so that nothing worse happens, then, please do that and please arrange for that to happen. Now that we've done our... Wait, hold on 1 second. I'm just going on to this fat boy problems, Hold on.
I got so wet today in the rain.
Huh?
Oh my God. I bet
rain.
there were a bunch of people
The rain.
who were like, oh my God, that's the most wonderful thing I've heard all day.
It's talking about the rain,
I'm
folks.
talking
rain.
about the rain, guys. The rain. Oh,
So, sorry, it was my turn.
great story.
So, Onofre Chargaloff. How about that for a segue? Sushi and Onofre Chargaloff. We're talking about crime stories. I think we all expect that even with the violent offenders, the courts, if this goes to trial and these people are found guilty, they're not going to spend a lot of time in jail.
Right.
That's what we come to expect from our courts, and these are violent crimes.
That's why we plead. That's why they plead out.
These are crimes with victims. Someone got hurt.
Right.
In 1995, a young Onofre Chargaloff, I believe he was 26 years old at the time. He was slinging back then. He had some drugs on him.
Yeah.
And this was 1995. This was at the height of the war on drugs, right? When ICE was a little new to the
And
island.
this is when Babalta had to show Guam who he was.
Yes, Benny Babalta was the
Yes.
cop who pulled this guy over. And there's actually been a whole lot of
Controversy.
evidence shown that, and testimony that the cop who pulled over Onofre Chargaloff did it without probable cause. But anyway, despite that, he was found with drugs in his car while he was pulled over after he was pulled over by Officer Benny Babalta, and he also had unregistered firearms. Is it unregistered? Unregistered firearms. He did not have a felony prior to that, but Judge Francis Tidinkle Gatewood, who was new to the district court at the time. I'm sorry, was it district court?
Yes.
Then I don't think it was Judge Francis Tidinkle Gatewood.
How does he serve federal time for that?
Oh, you know what? I think he was sentenced when Francis Tidinkle Gatewood became district court judge. So, went to trial and everything like that. Anyway, she threw the book at him and sentenced him to 44 years in prison on a victimless crime. And arguably a nonviolent crime because violence wasn't involved in this crime. 44 years. He has spent the majority of the last 25 years at the federal penitentiary in Lompoc, California. He had 6 years, so he got 10 years of that sentence shaved off after a hearing. I believe it was earlier this year, or no,
Last year. June.
in June of 2019. And today he had a hearing before Judge Francis Tedinko Gatewood. And the judge showed compassion, and it had a lot to do with the failure of the Federal Bureau of Prisons to provide a safe environment for Mr. Chargaloff, who had contracted COVID-19. So COVID-19 in Lompoc, Lompoc's considered like a petri dish for COVID-19 infection. I believe like a significant portion of the prison population became sick with COVID-19. And Onofre Chargaloff was one of those. He was in a cell with 3 or 4 other people, four other people.
Yes.
And so the judge showed mercy on him. The prosecutor, Rosetta St. Nicholas, opposed the release. But the judge said, you know, you're released today, and the family was so surprised.
I also feel like his stint in the federal prison system, he got degrees, not just one. He's
a very smart guy.
He did something in there, and I think that also has to do with her decision today.
So, yes, and matter of fact, we saw some video of the daughters driving over to
pick him up.
Pick him up at Lompoc.
The free man.
Yeah. It was a nighttime drive. I don't know. It must have been pretty late at night actually in California. So this story, the reason that the first word of the title of this show is justice, has everything to do with this story. Onofre Chargaloff, the story of Onofre Chargaloff is one of the first stories that we did in Kandit. It was back in 2018. We were still casting from my personal page, as a matter of fact. We were looking for the video earlier, but we couldn't find it. That's how far back it was. But we started to do this story about, you know, the push was free Onofre Chargaloff, and it had a lot to do with this guy did not deserve to be sentenced to 44 freaking years.
Yeah,
and
remember we were gonna do our first protest, and then we got a phone call. Like,
Yeah.
You guys better not put yourself next to the road. Do you know how many people want to run you guys over? You better not.
So it followed conversations that I had with Onofre Chargaloff. He put me on his call list, and it was the first time I ever navigated through the call system for the Federal Penitentiary or the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And every time he would call, he was just so smart. And he put me in contact with this attorney advocate in California. Anyway, it was a wonderful experience talking to him. They had a hard time getting me some materials because of the mailing system and the way it worked. It never came to me. So we began to advocate for him and to tell his story. And then it came to a point where he was going to go before Judge Francis Tedinko Gatewood for release. And we started to do the stories again, but then we pulled back because Judge Francis Tedinko Gatewood doesn't like me. I flipped her the bird at like a hearing.
No, you didn't.
Okay, well, I flipped her family the bird.
That was
at a
to someone
hearing.
else, not her.
And so
You have more respect than that, Troy.
I do. I do. So we're very happy about the outcome of this.
I'm very excited for Onofre and his family.
Yes.
This is the start of a new life.
Yes.
Once again, I'm all for second chances and,
He's overdue a second chance.
Yes.
All the guy did was have some drugs and an unregistered firearm. He had no history of violence. He had no history of, I think he had no history of arrest actually prior to this. The judge just wanted to make an example of him back in the
like
day.
my grandma would say, things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
God probably put him there because if he kept going
He would've
the
died.
route, he probably would have died.
And now he gets to see his grandchildren.
Right.
So while he's been in prison, his daughters have grown up, and he has grandchildren now, and he gets to see them.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful story
exciting.
all around. Justine Ray Rodriguez Flores says, "Us people on a diet can't watch Candid. Troy always making us hungry."
Sorry.
And you trust me, right, to know what to eat because I'm fat? It's just like when you trust what a fat chef does.
yeah.
Because you know that food is good because they are fat, you know? Bennett Lujan Dueña says, "Hi, Pat. Heard Franklin in the house." Jesse Mendiola says of Onofre Chargaloff, "Love you, Boo Boo." That's his nickname, Boo Boo. They were cellies, right?
Yes, they were, yeah.
Anissa Akfaji says, "Half a day, we the familia of Onofre are now in Lompoc."
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice, very nice.
I hope we get to meet him one day. You know, even if
I
it's by
know.
Zoom or, you know.
I think well, we can go to California and visit him there because he is was it called probation?
Yeah, for 5 years.
He's on supervised release. He's on supervised release for 5 years or 4 years or something, and or after those 5 years or whatever, he'll be able to come back to Guam and then we can see him there. But let's just go to California. I mean, if the governor ever lets us go anywhere. Rosin and Michael Cruz say. Troy Torres, Johnny Rosario, Eric Rosario, Jacob Nakamura, and Congressman Michael St. Nicholas, brilliant minds. Oh, I love you, my auntie from another auntie.
Love it.
Pam Duvall says, congratulations. Hi, Gina Call. Leanne gives her loving hearts to Anissa Akfaji, and so does Jesse Mendiola. All right, so, and we love this story because, they say justice takes some time, or the wheels of justice turn slowly, or whatever that is. Because we did this story and we advocated for justice, it just, whenever these loops close for us, and it doesn't happen, we're only
Often.
2 years old, so it hasn't happened often, it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels really good. Like, like if the governor were impeached, that would feel like wonderful, like roses. Or if Janela Carrera, was finally fired. I was going to say something else, but lawsuit. If she was finally fired, that would feel great. Or like if Senator Kelly March Taitano was kicked out of office, or Amanda Shelton was kicked out of office, there's justice in the works. There's, the universe speaking to justice and truth, and this is one of those examples.
Hashtag
Yeah.
Stanburn.
So on to the CNMI. The CNMI, the governor's office had two, or CNMI government had two releases today. One was for the labor provides update on PUA and FPUC programs. So there was 5,000 applicants under the program, and they're just having some issues, just like Guam, but on a smaller scale, a little smaller. It says, to assist PUA applicant with their application processing, please note the following. The term unemployment as it relates to PUA means you have been furloughed, laid off, or working reduced hours as a result of COVID-19. On the initial PUA application, the last day worked is the date your employment was affected as a result of COVID-19. For those who were furloughed, laid off, or working hours less than customary hours, that is the date this took effect on the PUA application.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm hearing this for the first time. So, it's my understanding, and maybe I'm getting this wrong, that on Guam, because I haven't heard this kind of thing on Guam. Isn't the Department of Labor telling you that if you have a job, if you had two jobs at the beginning of the pandemic, and you lost income from one job, but you still have the other job, it's illegal to apply? Isn't that what Guam Department of Labor is saying?
No, because what if they're both not full-time?
I thought I saw that in the release. It said, they want to it's like some anti-fraud thing. And I thought that was kind of weird, because I thought it was supposed to be if you lost any income, you can apply.
Yeah.
Like in the case of Luis Muñoz, WWLMD, what would Luis Muñoz do? And so Luis had two jobs, right? Senator and singer. She should put that in her commercial. Senator, singer, statesman. Sorry. Anyway, I digress. So she said that she returned, or she disclaimed the claim that she made because
she didn't
she already
report.
have.
No, but maybe because she didn't report her $55,000.
Oh, but so she can still apply then for the PUA.
But she just has to report that she made that money.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to confuse everyone. It's just that I'm confused and I'm trying to work through the information here. Okay, I'm sorry. It
Because
just
if I have two jobs and each job, I only work 15 hours a week in one job and 30 hours a week in another job, that's still both part-time.
yeah.
It's not full-time.
So according to the CNMI release, they're considering all of this stuff. It's
Yes.
I'm sorry. It's just maybe it's the information coming out of Guam is just not as clear as
It's
the
not,
information
because I don't
coming
even
out of
think
the
they're
CNMI.
clear. Guam, I think they're not clear either. Okay. We have also received numerous reports from PUA claimants that they are experiencing challenges with the online portals, such as the Northern Mariana Islands is not an option for states. To resolve this issue, indicate U.S. minor outlying islands for states. After completing the initial PUA claim, PUA claimants are given a claim summary and the weekly benefit amount of $173. This is an error on the online portal that has been brought to the attention to the web provider for improvement and correction. A second webinar is being planned for early July, which will focus on the initial PUA application and the weekly benefit request.
Okay.
So Saipan, they haven't, they processed, they're looking at 2,000 more inquiries.
So this is from earlier today, and then there was an update to the information that came
No.
later in the day. Or is it the same information?
It says that they added funding.
Oh, because they're gonna roll out
The
even
numbers,
more.
yes, the numbers, they want to make sure everybody gets it. So I guess they paid out 49 million, but
They paid out, or they're going to pay out.
no, it says here, over 90% of this funding has been transferred, and revenue and tax has successfully paid out 32,488 taxpayers in the amount of 49,891,000.
Oh, that's the EIP.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So that's that. So it was up 7.6 million, so that they don't miss anybody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So glad to know that the CNMI is almost done with paying their EIP.
Guam's moving it along. We're moving along. Guys, don't forget, especially you got to file your weekly claim. So every week file. Yeah.
So thank you for that report for the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. We do not have an update on unemployment on Guam. It's just except
Just
that
Monday.
there's a third batch coming out next week, according to Director David De La Sola. But now we turn our attention to the Department of Education, which had a news conference earlier today, where education officials and board members explained what's going to happen come August 11, which is the, as for now, first day of school. But it's not the first day of school that you would expect it would be. As a matter of fact, this is a wholly different type of education system coming up for school year 2020-2021. And a lot of it is, well, actually all of it is based on the safety and wellness of the students and parents and teachers in mind because of this whole Wuhan virus thing. Sorry, just Kung flu, coronavirus, COVID-19, novel coronavirus. I am not gonna say novel coronavirus when I can just easily say Wuhan. Now, if I'm gonna have a little fun, just to piss people off, I'd say Kung flu. But I can see. Then people will really have a point to make if they say that I'm being racist.
When I think of it, I just think of this.
What is, snowflakes? Oh no,
Yes.
what is that,
Fairies.
a fairy?
Yes.
That's a
yes,
fairy?
Yes.
Like, you little fag, you can't take a freaking joke, It's Gay Pride Month and I'm gay, I'm also Japanese.
No more. It's over yesterday.
It's Troy's birthday month, that's
Yes,
right.
it is. Yes.
It is July.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, okay, so we digress. So schools will be opening on August 11. And here's the deal. Parents are going to have three options.
Yes, but before this, they had a survey. DOE had a survey, parents filled it out. The board and everybody went through those surveys, and this is what came out of the survey.
And there was a lot of student input, as I understand. And of course, there was a lot of work that went into this. When you consider the planning or the plans that have come from this planning, and you understand that DOE's operations were never set up to come up with a school year like the one they've come up with. It's never been a part of their operations to come up with
Right.
something like this. And they did it, and they did it in a very protracted period of time. Contracted or protracted, I don't know. A lot of kudos goes to the Department of Education and the Board of Education for putting this together so quickly and with a lot of input by teachers, students, parents, et cetera. They even did that survey, as you said, right? So this is what's going to happen. There are three options. You can either send your kid to school, and if you do that, well, hold on. Or you can have your child do homeschooling. And that option is 100% homeschooling with an online curriculum. So meaning you're doing everything, like all of your assignments, instead of textbooks that you would read, it would be stuff that you would find online, resources that a teacher will guide you through. And so the student-teacher interaction happens online.
Okay.
And the instructional materials are online. And then there are certain supplies that the Department of Education will give you. Matter of fact, they're going to fork out $2 million to provide each student with $60 worth of supplies, which is something kind of novel for the Department of Education as well. I know, kind of sad that that's novel for DOE, right? And then the third option is 100% homeschooling, but with hard text. So the textbooks and those sort of instructional materials. No matter which option you choose, according to Deputy Superintendent for Curriculum, Joe Sanchez, all three of those options are going to have some kind of technology component integrated into it. Of course, the homeschooling online, that's definitely a technology-rich experience. But even if you are in the traditional classroom or in the hard copy curriculum, DOE over the next few weeks is going to find ways and start the procurement for getting students technological resources. So whether that's laptops or
Wi-Fi,
iPads or
internet.
they're going to start connecting the villages with inexpensive, so the lower kind of Wi-Fi. They're going to have like these hotspots. And this makes me very happy because in 2012, this was something that we put together in a plan from the governor's office working with DOE, and John Fernandez had just become the superintendent around this time. So here's the deal. If you choose the traditional classroom setting for your kid, there's going to be a whole lot of supports and a whole lot of rules that go with that. First of all, you're going to have to wear masks. You're going to get your temperature checked through a thermal scanner when you get to school. If you develop some type of cold or flu symptoms throughout the day, you're going to be placed in an isolation room until you're ready to go home. If anyone in your family is sick, you're not allowed to go to school. And you're only going to go to school about 6 times a month.
Right.
So it's going to be, if you choose the traditional route, you're going to be divided in 3 groups by alphabetical order. So as an example, everyone with the last names beginning with A through E is Group A. Everyone with the last names from F through M or F through N is going to be Group B. And everyone with the last names O through Z is going to be Group C. Group A, that's just an example, okay? Group A, if Group A starts on Monday, then Group A won't be back in school until Thursday because Group B will be Tuesday, Group C will be Wednesday. And on Fridays is a day dedicated to student interventions and parents support days, online and phone support, individual meetings, small group sessions, et cetera, et cetera. That's sort of like the creative whatever between
That's if your
students
child's
and
having
teachers.
difficult time.
It would most likely be about that, but I'm sure also the teachers could use it as an opportunity to do the whole small groups thing on Fridays if they wanted to do that. And if there's a holiday, then the rotation just skips over that holiday.
And if you choose
et cetera.
that, uniforms are not mandatory. It's up to the parent. It is the board did or they thought of how everyone is having a hard time. So uniforms are not mandatory.
Well, actually, let's hear what the Board of Education had to say. Maria Gutierrez had some very terse words about Big Sopti, who is the owner of International Royals and Bigs. If you're a public school parent, you'll recognize them as the company that for many years had the monopoly over the uniform sales to public school parents. I think a couple other companies started over the last couple of years, but today at the meeting, when we got out of the car to go into the DOE headquarters, there was Big Soap Tea right there in the front. And so during the news conference, when they were talking about this uniform policy, we just straight up asked, we were like, was Big Soap Tea here to pressure the board to continue the mandatory uniform policy? You know, because that would financially benefit Big and International Royals. And Maria Gutierrez said yes. I couldn't believe my ears. I was like, oh my God, what a straightforward, like.
No, I'm like, you tell them, lady.
Yeah.
You tell them.
You just never ever hear an elected official just be that truthful, that quick, and that efficient. But let's hear what
he was
what Maria
bothering
Gutierrez,
her from the next.
and
the
she
day
said that.
before.
She said that he was bothering her on TV. let's hear what Mrs. Gutierrez had to say.
Those who say, I will never, ever, ever send my kid physically back to school unless there is a vaccine, to those who say we need to go back to work, we want to send them back every day. So unfortunately, in the situation we're in with the safety requirements that we have, we're going to have to work in different modes, and these are the three options that have been developed in close consultation with teachers, with parents and student input as well. And of the three, we're looking for our parents to select one of those options that they believe will work best for them, and that'll help us get organized for this school year. Once we get better numbers on how many are wanting to come in to do face-to-face, how many are going to go completely online or home, or do home learning. So again, this is just like phase one. We get that organized, then we'll be able to provide more details as to exactly how this will work. We're getting a lot of questions about, what happens if I choose one? Can I switch? We'll answer those in due time as we work through the details and get more information from our community. But over the next few weeks, that's what we're intending to do: present, answer questions, and then have our parents and our students choose which mode of learning will work best for them in this particular situation and scenario that we are opening the school year with.
Let's say I'm in student group A. Does that mean that conceivably, on the factory holidays, I would go into school 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a month?
So we are looking at the impact on instructional hours. I'll let Joe take the question in a little more detail, but you're definitely right that the in-class opportunities are going to be much fewer for this alternating schedule. I want to emphasize that when you're not in school, it's not the day off, and it's not, this is your day off. You should, don't worry until you come to school next time. There is going to be work that's going to be expected and required over those days where you're at home. And so it's just going to be a blended type of approach. But
the board decided to suspend the policy. Not to say that students can't come to school with uniform. I'm opting to send my kids to school with uniform, so it's just an option that would alleviate some of the stressors that some of the families may feel.
Thank you. Yes, they came looking for me. But why I'm on the board is for the students. And no vendor can pressure me with what I feel is the best interest for the students and for the families. And I just want to make that clear. That is very dear to my heart, especially single parents. I grew up 10 kids. My mom is a single parent. I lost my dad when I was 12 years old. We were struggling. Good thing my mom is a dressmaker. And I feel the parents that are calling me because it is hard. It is really hard nowadays. You see the grab and go meals, families are lining there. Families are lining at the commodities. When there's a company or business that do donation, they're there. So I cannot sleep at night thinking that this school uniform should be suspended. And like Mr. Mendiola said, we will look at it, but not now. We did it on the dengue. Okay? And it's very dear because I was on this board when the school uniform policy was established, was created by a very dear person of me, but we fought and amend to make it come the policy where the parents does not have to suffer and the students. So yes, and I made it known from the beginning to the administrators that I am going to push this because really, if you are a parent and you have other family members are suffering, somebody called this morning on the media and said, I agree with Mrs. Gutierrez. Not all the time do I agree with her, but I agree with this one because I grew up when it's always hand me down. And this, all of you here in this room, is very sensitive. Our Island Board of Governing Students did a uniform drive last year. I'm telling you, it's well appreciated. So if any of the vendors want to donate, want to give voucher, by all means, we welcome them. It's a tax break, put it in it's a donation. But to make it mandatory and require that this time when we're all facing this pandemic situation on our island, I am very sorry because I am one, and I know my colleagues support me, that we cannot continue this. We need to be sensitive. What is more important for the parents is go out and if they have little money to buy food, rather than worrying, I have to buy new uniform. No, stress is very hard. And if you know how it is, how hardship life is, I am one of them. And I feel for that. And I know all of you here are sensitive. So school uniform, learning is going on in the school, even without wearing the school uniform, because the Department of Education mission is to educate all our kids. And we've been very successful with that, even before the uniform was implemented. I know how many of you went to school without uniform, unless you go to a Catholic school, but I went to school without uniform. And I was able to learn something, at least to write my name, okay? So this is really, it's very dear to my heart. With all those families that are calling me, a parent calling me just before the graduation, can you help me find a cap and gown for my two boys? That hurts my heart because I never met this parent, and up to now, she texts me, thank you, Mrs. Gutierrez. I thought you were that mean lady they call at DOE, but you're not. But that's the truth, nothing is, but honestly, thank you so much, and please, it's optional, but we are not going to require or the child be penalized. The board policy is hereby suspended, and I'm sure me and my colleague are not going to go back and rescind that. Thank you.
Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using island cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, we tasted their food and everything, we definitely use them again because their service and food is just awesome.
I'm gonna write in Maria Gutierrez for senator. Yeah, I haven't heard too many more thoughtful words coming from public officials than I did hear from Maria Gutierrez, and it was on such a focused subject. But it's not about the subject; it's about her empathy for what people are going through, her understanding of the community. She certainly has her ear to the ground and her pulse or her finger on the pulse of the community. So.
Yeah. Well, there's some comments that uniforms are cheaper. Yes, but people aren't going out and shopping, and their thoughts are they could just wear what they have now.
Yeah.
Because money is hard.
But it's optional. If uniforms are cheaper for you, like because your kids are growing and they need new clothes, then go buy the uniforms. That's because they're cheaper. The point is that it's an option now, and it takes into consideration. Look how fat I am.
No, but I like that I like that when we showed up, he left.
Who?
That guy.
Dicks.
The one with the thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like Santa Claus clutching my stomach and laughing. Ho ho ho! I was gonna say something else, but
She's not here.
I'll get sued for it.
She is not here.
So, anyway, on to more scoundrels.
Or ha ha. Okay, I'll stop. Okay, go.
Why don't you lead us into our conversation about a congressional candidate and a scandal that we reported on?
Underwood and the UOG credit cards. And who was signing those credit cards?
So we did this whole expose on UOG credit card scandal, and it was after we FOIA'd thousands of pages of credit card documents. I think the period of time was between 2014 and 2018, if I'm not mistaken. And we found things like a $457 shopping spree at Macy's, $450 in, they got, look at all this stuff. They bought computer systems fitted with games. It went to certain professors. Dr. James Beng Teng Selman took his staff to the Beng Teng Spa, spent $450 on massages.
9 massages.
What else did they?
It was a lot.
It was a whole lot of travel that occurred on these credit cards. Basically unfettered, spending on taxpayer dime. And some of those who criticized the story
Ross.
said, "Oh, Ross! Oh my goodness!
Yes.
If I spent that much money at Ross, I would be so happy." Some of the people who criticized the story said, "Oh, this came from grant funding." So what? That's even worse. You have a fiduciary responsibility to the grantors, and there are consequences for the misspending of money. So what we didn't report in these stories was who the president of the university was at the time that all of this was happening. Because it wasn't Dr. Thomas Kreese who actually put some restrictions on the use of credit cards after this story broke. It was Dr. Robert Underwood, who was the president of UOG at the time. He was the one who instituted and pushed for the credit card policy. He went before the Board of Regents and he was like, "Oh, we need these credit cards." So on top of the whole, why would we switch horses in midstream, referring to the good job that Congressman Mike Nicholas is doing, now comes the part of the story where we talk about Congressman Nicholas's opponents. And yeah, part of that story is, well, Robert Underwood didn't do the things that he promised to do that Mike Nicholas ended up accomplishing. But also in his life after Congress, when he was the president of the University of Guam, he made some very poor decisions. And this UOG credit card scandal still hasn't been audited by the public auditor. It still hasn't been reviewed by the Attorney General. It hasn't gone anywhere. But you know what? You and I, us, and our audience can review this over and over again until the day of the election, because they just raped the finances of the University of Guam by having this whole credit card scandal attached to them. So meanwhile, as Dr. Underwood criticizes Congressman Mike Nicholas about, I have no idea what he criticizes Mike Nicholas about because it makes no sense. Congressman Nicholas was over in Congress, and I think this was yesterday, fighting for things, trying to close the loop on long-standing issues that his predecessors were never able to solve for Guam. And Congressman Nicholas is getting us that much closer. Here is a clip of Congressman Nicholas's testimony today before Senator Lisa Murkowski's committee.
Good afternoon and half a day, Chairwoman Murkowski, Ranking Member.
Start after the beginning.
And finally, we will hear from the congressman from Guam, the Honorable Michael San Nicolas.
Good afternoon, Onofre, Chairwoman Murkowski, Ranking Member Manchin, and members of the committee. I want to thank you for your leadership and advocacy in our combined efforts to provide equitable access of federal resources to the people of Guam and our U.S. territories in this global fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. In assessing our COVID-19 circumstances and evaluating what further action must be taken federally in order to fully meet the needs of our territories, we can find one very specific parallel to the pandemic itself. Pre-existing conditions exacerbate risk factors. For Guam in particular, the pre-existing conditions of unfunded earned income tax credit mandates, the lack of supplemental security income applicability, and the underfunded costs of the migratory impacts and the compacts of free association left us vulnerable and stall our efforts to recover. From inception, the EITC costs for Guam have ballooned to roughly 30% of total income tax refund liabilities on Guam. The very nature of the EITC is that it is intended to pay a qualified recipient an amount in excess of their total banked income tax withholdings in order to incentivize work. While the EITC is a broad federal program, is sustainable with the U.S. Treasury able to fund those costs using various deficit spending tools. Applying them to Guam and leaving Guam to fund them is wholly unsustainable because the territory does not have similar access to such tools. As a result of this pre-existing condition, Guam's capacity to meet COVID-19 threats was greatly diminished, with less facility readiness and nurse recruitment and retention already inadequate to meet Guam's needs. The Congress must see to it that the federal government absorbs the cost of EITC by permanently funding it on a reimbursement basis in the territories. Additional thought should be put into a Federal Reserve facility to capitalize EITC costs to territories and direct payments from the Treasury to the Fed at the close of the fiscal year to reconcile it. When the pandemic struck and our tourism-based economy contracted, we have seen many families go from making ends meet to not being able to provide. We must recognize the pre-existing challenges facing our at-risk community and how their situations went from bleak to destitute as a result of the pandemic. At its core, Supplemental Security Income, SSI, is intended to serve as a lifeline for those who qualify, particularly the aged and the disabled, who otherwise would have little means to provide for their basic needs. The lack of SSI on Guam means that thousands of children and families go without what otherwise would be a staple of American decency throughout this country. Prior to the pandemic, this at-risk group was cared for by aging parents and gracious family members, many of whom worked multiple jobs to supplement the cost of living and care for their loved ones. This pre-existing condition already strained households, and the economic savaging of the pandemic has caused people to not only lose their jobs, but lose the ability to care for the disabled loved ones who would be supported by SSI had they not been statutorily excluded. The Congress must end the discriminatory exclusion of territories from SSI. Recent federal court rulings are already indicating that such an outcome is forthcoming. It will be both pragmatic and magnanimous for the Congress to fully extend SSI to the territories, particularly during these COVID-19 times, so that the people most in need, even before the pandemic, are finally made whole during the pandemic. As the renegotiations for the Compacts of Free Association implementation agreements begin in earnest, we must be mindful of how the pre-existing condition of these agreements have created critical health, education, and public safety vulnerabilities in the territory of Guam. To avail of the freedom to migrate, COFA citizens must either be doing so for education, healthcare, or employment. The costs associated with hosting COFA migrants under either of these three prerequisites have vastly exceeded current funding levels. In 2019, the rate of federally funded compact impact per COFA migrant was $892, which is far short of the cost to educate at over $9,000, the cost for government health care at almost $3,000, and the cost of EITC should they be working and receiving that benefit at $2,800 on a per citizen basis on Guam. These shortfalls create real systemic imbalances and ripe pre-existing conditions for COVID-19 to go untested, untreated, or undiagnosed, as COFA migrants are ineligible for Medicaid coverage and the cash shortfall of underfunded migratory costs overburden the systems of care. The Congress must strive to provide as much balance as possible to the costs associated with hosting COFA migrants, as failure to do so comes at a cost to the health, education, and public safety institutions provided by host communities. The Congress must also extend the applicability of Medicaid to COFA migrants as a common sense component of the authorize migratory purpose of seeking health care, and further consider extending Medicaid directly into COVID states as a means to ameliorate healthcare migration at the source. Addressing these pre-existing conditions will certainly improve the outcome of all COVID-19 relief provided and permanently strengthen the Guam community to better withstand any future threats. While they represent long-standing issues within the territory of Guam, these pandemic circumstances have revealed the structural weaknesses caused by their systemic corrosion. To ensure our COVID-19 relief efforts are fully effective, and to ensure that Guam and our territories are properly situated for any future risks, we must address the EITC, SSI, and COFA inequities now, not later. Thank you, Chairwoman Murkowski and Ranking Member Manchin and members of the committee for the opportunity to testify before you today. I stand ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so very much, and appreciate the
So-
testimony of each of you here.
So if the Congress passes even just one of those, it would be another historic feat under Congressman Mike Nicholas's belt. The EITC one is just, it's huge. It is, even if it was just 75% reimbursement for EITC. You know what that all just translates to? Is your tax refunds will be on time. If the governor of Guam handles the money right. If.
What's his name's not there anymore?
Carla
liar.
Batch?
The liar. Lester Liar.
If we got SSI. In the CNMI, they have SSI, but on Guam, for some reason, we don't have SSI. That would be another historic feat. If we got reimbursed for the true cost of the Compacts of Free Association, that would be, again, huge. If it was retro to us for the amount of money that was owed throughout the years, we wouldn't even have a debt. You know, that's just how big this whole thing would be. So while former Congressman Robert Underwood, and now candidate for Congress Robert Underwood, was busying himself with federal grant money spent using credit cards issued to his cronies at the University of Guam, Congressman Michael Nicholas has been busy trying to get federal money to Guam in the job that he has, in the job that Congressman Underwood had on issues that both of them have been responsible for, and yet it seems only one of them is really truly trying to deliver on.
Who is delivering on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you know, we're just going to continue to beat this horse until election day. Just believe you me. Anyway, I'm sorry. There were some comments that I wanted to read. Chris and Valerie Kaipat say, so proud that Congressman St. Nicholas, is articulate and has self-confidence sitting up there repping us. Woohoo, St. Nicholas for Guam. Veronica St. Nicholas says, thank you and God bless Congressman MSN, Biba Candyland, Biba Guam. Biba. Kelsey Alice Chargaloff says, Underwood sucks. He's an old fart, and he's late to try to do anything in Congress. Mike done more than he has ever done in the duration when he was in Congress. Too little, too late underwear. Art Murphy says, very true. Tony Smith says, if MSN ever runs for governor, I highly believe and have absolute faith that it will be the best thing that ever happened for Guam. We need change, and it begins with him. I love that. I love that very much. Thank you guys for your comments. Now on to our top story for the night. It's something that we published in Kandit on Monday, I believe it was, and it was a finding that we had. Well, not that we had, but that a man named Larry Rupley had. For the past year, we've brought you the story of Larry Rupley's allegations against former police officer AJ Balajadia. When in the 1980s, when Larry was just a young boy, and he described this on the record for us. We played the audio of Larry Rupley's phone interview with us, where he discussed in detail the day that AJ Balajadia forced him down onto a bed, stuck a sock into Larry's mouth when Larry was a little boy, and AJ was a rookie cop, and forcibly raped this boy inside this boy's house while AJ Balajadia, well, at least he began with his uniform on. And so several years later, in 2016, when Larry Rupley came back to Guam, and part of the reason he left Guam when he was a teenager was because he wanted to he was afraid of AJ Balajadia, who by that time was the spokesman for the Guam Police Department. I believe it was during the Gutierrez administration when Larry Rupley left and AJ was the spokesman for the first time. So in 2016, Larry Rupley returned to Guam. And as he was driving, he saw an AJ Balajadia for senator sign on the road. And Larry thought, this is too much. How can this guy, even think of running for public office? I need to tell somebody so that this guy doesn't make it into public office. So Larry doesn't decide to go on Facebook and put his business out there or anything like that. Because he, until he finally came out with the story publicly, he lived with a whole lot of shame, guilt, fear, confusion, and to this day, trauma. And, it's very typical of a rape survivor's situation, right? But in 2016, he thought that the solution was to get together with the Republican Party of Guam because AJ was running as a Republican candidate for senator at the time. And so according to Larry and according to witnesses who we separately interviewed, Larry contacted a friend of his who had ties to the Calvo administration. This was when Eddie Calvo was the governor, Ray Tenorio was the lieutenant governor, J.I. Cruz was the chief of police, and J.I. Cruz is running for senator right now, by the way. And AJ Balajadia had just finished becoming police spokesman. The reins were turned over to Sergeant Paul Tapau by that time, and AJ had to leave the Guam Police Department and go work at the governor's office as a staff assistant because he was running for senator. And according to the Mini-Hatch Act, you cannot do that when you are a classified employee. So this friend of Larry Rupley contacted John Mofnis, who was close with the Calvo administration at the time. This friend also contacted me. And I remember taking this issue to Governor Eddie Calvo because I was his senior advisor at the time. I didn't know Larry's name at the time. I just knew that there was a man who wanted to speak to somebody about AJ Balajadia because he was making an allegation that AJ Balajadia raped him when he was born. I thought, oh my gosh, this is something needs to be done about this. A report needs to go somewhere. So I told the governor about it at the time, and then it was out of my hands after that. But this person also started talking to John Mofnis, who was a part of the Calvo Tenorio administration in different ways, politically at least. And according to Larry Rupley, that set a string of events into motion that ended with a meeting between Larry and AJ Balajadia at an office in Agana in the conference room of that office. And during the time of the setup of the meeting, John Mofnis, according to Larry, had told Larry that Senator Tony Atta, the minority leader at the time in the legislature, knew about it. Mm-hmm. He was the one leading the senatorial slate for the election that year. That Governor Eddie Calvo knew about it. I knew that to be a fact. That Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio knew about it, and that the chief of police knew about it. And they all wanted an amicable solution. They wanted Larry to find some sort of peace with AJ. So there was this meeting that was set up where both Larry and AJ were at. It was August 17, 2016. In that meeting, AJ Balajadia, Larry confronts AJ about, do you remember what you did to me? I can't, I want to hear you recognize this to me and apologize to me about this. And AJ Balajadia breaks down and then he says, I don't recall that ever happening, but if it did, I'm very sorry. What kind of, I don't recall that ever happening. And if I did, I'm very sorry. This is so stupid. And so Larry Rupley says, how can you say that? I don't think he says you're lying. I can't remember exactly what he said. It's in the story. We published it in the story. And then AJ breaks down again and he says, please don't come after my kids. And Larry thought that was very odd for him to say. So Larry says, why would I come after your kids? And they have this whole conversation that goes absolutely nowhere. And no one in the administration reports this. the governor, the lieutenant governor, the chief of police, they do not do anything about this situation. And AJ Balajadia at the time was a staff assistant at the governor's office and a senatorial candidate. Larry received no justice from the Republican Party of Guam or from the administration, but he did receive some measure of justice from the voters of Guam who made sure that in the primary election, AJ came in dead last. So I guess the voters saw that there was something wrong with AJ Balajadia. So fast forward a couple of years, and Larry Rupley contacts us, and he talks to us about the whole situation. And so on May 15, 2019, after Larry tells us about everything, I make a phone call to AJ Balajadia. Let's listen to that phone call now. Hi, Officer Balajadia.
Yes.
Hi, Larry Rupley has told our news group about a rape that occurred when he was between the ages of 8 and 14 by you. Do you have anything to say about that?
I'm not aware of that.
You're not aware of any meeting that you had with Larry Rupley a couple of years ago when you were a candidate for senator, in which he confronted you about this issue in order to get some closure, and you said to him, quote, I don't recall that. If I did that to you, only guilty people do that. So, that wasn't the only phone call or phone interview that we made. We also called Senator Tony Atta, because part of Larry Rupley's testimony to us was that Tony Atta, according to John Moffness, knew about it. We also called John Moffness. He didn't answer our phone calls. We called Tony Atta, and he finally called us back. And Tony Atta said that he was not aware, that it was news to him. And so we're okay. So we called Benny Pinala, who at the time was the vice chairman of the Republican Party. He said that the Republican Party didn't know about it. So it's one of two things, because it wasn't just Larry Rupley's testimony we had on this. It was also a couple of witnesses to these conversations and events who independently corroborated Larry Rupley's story. So it is our belief that there are only two versions here, and one of them is a lie. Either John Moffness lied to Larry Rupley about the Republican Party knowing, or Benny Pinala and Tony Atta are lying that they didn't know. I know for a fact that Governor Eddie Calvo knew. I'm not sure if Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio knew, or if Police Chief J.I. Cruz knew. And I didn't know that until I saw a certain email that Larry Rupley sent me. But before we get to that, the other person who we called was at the time, and continues to be, police spokesman Sergeant Paul Tapau. I want you to listen to this interview and pay very close attention to what he says. It took place that the victim is telling us about when AJ was a Republican senatorial candidate, and how the victim confronted AJ about this, and AJ's response was, I don't recall that happening, but if it did happen the way you said it happened, then I'm sorry. And so it's like a very telling response. And the only question that I had for you about this was, aside from, is the Guam Police Department aware of this? The only other question I have is, since the statute of limitations for a criminal charge of rape is long gone, or is passed a long time ago, whether the official misconduct charge can be filed, and where that can be filed. Would it be at a precinct or at the chief of police office?
Okay, so let me walk away with it.
Okay.
So these are serious allegations and everything that we take seriously. Allegations against any police officer.
Okay.
We take them seriously. Now I can, what you're telling me, this is new to me and probably new to the department.
Okay.
I don't recall any complaints filed any other officer or made towards Officer Balajadia.
Okay.
That your second question, and then again, we will move forward with any information or any complaint that is filed with the police officer.
Okay.
In accordance to both protecting the officer's administrative employee rights and, of course, first and foremost, ensuring the rights to the complainant and, of course, the victim.
Sure.
Now, if anybody would like to file a complaint against an officer, they can, rightfully go to any precinct. If they feel that they're comfortable speaking to an officer there.
Okay.
If not, they can go to our internal affairs, which is open from 8 to 5. If it's an allegation against a police officer for any official misconduct.
Okay.
A complaint relative to that of an infraction of law, criminal complaint can also be filed within a prospective precinct of your choice.
Okay.
You can speak to any officer that will fill the complaint.
Okay.
The officer cannot fulfill the closure of the case or the report at that time. All reports will be forwarded to our criminal investigation division for follow-up, and of course, the law officer will also be forwarded to our internal affairs division.
What?
So once that's forwarded, yeah.
In a case like this, where there's an allegation of rape against children, and considering that police officers have not just access to children, but one can argue power over their custody, or So that was May 15, 2019. The very important part of that interview with Paul Tapau, was when he said that neither he nor the Guam Police Department were aware of any officer's complaint or a complaint as to Officer AJ Balajadia with regard to this situation, which, if on its own, we have to trust what the police spokesman says, right? On its own. Except that after this, Larry Rupley was upset. Mm-hmm. And Larry Rupley he came out of his shell and he was like, I'm going to expose this because we need to have some justice here. Right. He ends up filing criminal complaints with the Attorney General's office and with the Guam Police Department. After he does that, a series of actions seem to be taking place, but nothing happens. AJ Balajadia ends up retiring in October of last year.
And the chief of police tells us because he retires,
there's nothing more he can do.
Yeah. It ends when he retires.
And that was in December of 2019 when the chief of police told us that. In January, his special assistant, Lieutenant Steve Almagan, tells us that the criminal case, now that was the administrative case, right? But the criminal case, which was supposed to be ongoing, was with the Attorney General's office. We have tried for months, and then the pandemic came, of course, but we've been trying for months to get information from the Attorney General's office about this case since GPD said it's with them. So on Monday, Carlina Charfauros with the Attorney General's office says, no, this is with GPD. And Larry Rupley sends us an email he received when he followed up with the Internal Affairs Division from a GPD officer named Frank Santos, who showed all the pending cases that involve Larry Rupley. And Larry Rupley is only thinking that the only thing that's pending is his criminal case against AJ Balajadia, which was filed in 2019 against AJ Balajadia by Larry Rupley. But there's another case that's appearing in the file. It's a 2016 terrorizing case filed by AJ Balajadia for the record, which was closed, and it was filed on August 17, 2016, the same day of the meeting between Larry Rupley and AJ Balajadia, and it even says at the AM Insurance. At AM Insurance, that is the conference, that is the business that has the conference room where that meeting happened. So when Sergeant Paul Tapau on May 15, 2019 said that the Guam Police Department is not aware of any such meeting or any such allegation, that information was false. Now, I don't know, and we've been following up with the police department about this. So between May 15, 2019 and the time that we published this story on Monday, There were many opportunities for Sergeant Paul Tapau or anyone at the Guam Police Department to tell us, oh, as a matter of fact, we actually did know about that. We did know that at least there was a meeting that took place because AJ Balajadia filed a terrorizing complaint. And why would AJ Balajadia file a terrorizing
Cover
complaint?
his ASS.
He was trying to cover his butt, but because he did that, because that's how dumb he is, you can't even trust him to cover his own tracks. It left a marker in the story. And it validated that this meeting actually did happen. This is a big deal. And I would imagine that Larry Rupley's attorneys would be all over this in pursuit of the criminal case, but probably more so on a civil lawsuit kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So more justice,
Thank
more
you,
karma.
Officer Frank Santos.
Yeah.
You are our hero. You are Larry's hero.
Thank you, Internal Affairs.
Yes. Let's keep pushing for justice for Mr. Rupley.
Yep. And so this is a good show. I like this show that we did tonight because we got to talk about a lot of justice, a lot of karma, and information on kids and stuff. I don't have any kids, thank goodness. Not my problem. But I know you parents, number one, need a break, and you are regretting every bad thing you ever said about a teacher now, because you were like, I know now. Now I know. Oh my God, those poor teachers, they need a raise. What are these monsters in my home classroom? I'm just kidding. I love kids for like a whole 20 minutes,
Yeah, true. Troy really knows how to block it out.
But, we will provide you information as it comes because it's a big deal what's going on with public schools.
I vow that this year, when school starts and whatever, Troy will hear about our kids, me and Eric's kids, because we will make Troy's boyfriend have to pick them up and deal with that. So Troy will hear, he's going to have no choice. I vow.
And he used the gang of bus exchange or something. All right, for Candid News, I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm Johnny Rosario. Good night.
Good night.